I would recommend hypnotherapy to you or anyone, frankly, that wants to make a change in their life. And they've never probably thought about hypnotherapy. They thought about the normal avenues. They go to the doctor, I'm run down, I'm stressed. They take patches for smoking. And I've seen loads and loads of people that said they've tried patches, they don't work, pills they get hooked on. Hypnotherapy doesn't use any of those things. It just talks to the part of the mind that controls whatever it is. So you don't need pills and you don't need patches. It's a very beneficial, natural way of changing your habit, your fear, your confidence. You can let go of things that you've dragged around for years that have got you down. And most people have got stuff going on in their minds that they can't seem to get rid of. Hypnotherapy can do that. You'd be suitable for hypnotherapy if you're able to relax and you have a good imagination.
My first experience was to stop smoking, and that was an habit that I had for roughly 15 years. So it was like very deep within my daily routine. And after I tried NHS and different type of therapies, nothing could really work. And a friend of mine suggested me to get hypnotized.
Hypnosis is an altered state of awareness. Most people actually trance every day. For example, if you were watching TV and you're really focused on the program you're watching and somebody comes in the room, a friend or whoever, speaks to you and you don't hear them. And suddenly it's, oh, sorry, what did you say? And you're so focused on the TV that your state of awareness has been altered.
I wasn't mentally there in the room. I was away, but still I was present. It was like looking outside of the window of a train, you know, when you're traveling and you get lost in your thoughts. It felt like exactly the same. I was there, but I wasn't there. And I couldn't really recall Ray working on me. I could remember only the beginning of the session and then when he woke me up, let's say, but it wasn't like being awake from the nap. It was literally like when you are lost in your thoughts, looking outside of a window and someone call your name and then you're, straight away aware.
In hypnosis, we call it trance, and we get the subject into that state of mind in the trance, and then you're able to contact the unconscious mind, which is about 80% of your total mind capacity. Only about 20% is conscious, which I'm using now. But for example, somebody said to me, can you remember a holiday you had with your parents when you were a child? And I said, yeah. How can you remember that? Consciously, you probably wouldn't, but your memory, a part of your brain at the back, and the unconscious is at the back of the mind. And you can bring that memory to the front and speak about it because it's been trapped there. For example, if somebody wants to stop smoking, some people can do it actually, have got the willpower, but most people can't. That's where hypnosis comes in. You're able to then make contact with the part of the unconscious which controls the smoking habit and give it something else to do other than smoking.
I felt something has changed. Maybe the day after, I felt like someone had worked in my head. I felt like very emotional. In some moments I wanted to cry. In some moments I got upset for no reason. For the first couple of days it was a bit intense and I could feel someone had been in my head. But then this feeling left and I never had the thing of smoking. I thought about it a few times, but since I saw Ray the first time, I never smoked again. And no stressing out, not suffering. Because when you are addicted to cigarette, it's very difficult to stop. Very difficult to stop. And I was smoking very heavily. It was a very life-changing experience. It wasn't easy, but it happened. I had my first cigarette when I was 17, and now I'm 34. And I love to do sport. So smoking was something that really didn't fit in my habits, because I like to go gymming, I like to go cycling, I'm like a very active person. Smoking was something that was really pulling me down. So what made me happy a lot is that I can go running and I don't have that feeling of being breathless. That I can enjoy more my free time, because I can enjoy doing more like sport, which is what I love. And smoking, it wasn't helping, obviously. It was helping for the other way. So very proud. I feel like I've been freed from a cage.
So when they're in hypnosis, you can contact the unconscious and speak to it without the conscious mind getting in the way. The conscious mind just floats off somewhere else entirely. And the subject is then in a very enjoyable condition. And most times, although people can't really understand it, the unconscious will communicate to me with movement. I've had people look at me very strangely and say, well, sorry, what do you mean? Because I always explain to them before what's likely to happen. For example, I saw a policeman a few years ago, and I said to him, during the hypnosis, your unconscious might communicate to me with movement. And he looked at me very strangely, sorry, what do you mean? So I said, well, your hands will be lightly on your thighs when you're in the chair. And it could be a finger talks to me, twitch. A hand might come up, or maybe both hands might come up during the hypnosis. Really? How long will they stay there? He said to me. So I said, I don't know. You don't know. Only your unconscious knows. But it could be 20 minutes. You think, what? What? He said, I can't hold my hands there for 20 minutes. And you can't. If I was holding my hands down as I'm speaking to you, within a minute or so, I just drop them. But your unconscious is so strong, so powerful. In fact, during the session with him, this is very true, his hands did go up and they stayed there for 50 minutes. And afterwards he looked at me and he said, that is very weird. That wasn't the word he used, actually, I'd say very weird. And I said, well, yes, it is. He said, I felt my hands go and I couldn't stop them. I said, no, you can't. And you couldn't bring them down. No, because the unconscious wants to stay there. And it did. And it was quite amazing, really. And he never smoked again. And he was a 40-a-day man. And his wife sent me a lovely email a few weeks later just saying, it's the best money we've spent since we got married, because I've been on it for years to stop smoking. But if someone wants you to do something, that doesn't count. It's whether you want it. Hypnotherapy will work for somebody who wants to make the change in their life, no matter what it is, to lose weight and then control weight, smoking, fears and phobias. Lots of people come, fear of flying, for example, fear of needles, a fear of heights. It's possible to do most fears in about an hour, hour and a quarter to alleviate the fear. I actually had a lady come to see me a few years ago with a very unusual one. It was a fear of pigeons, and she couldn't walk down the street if she saw pigeons on the pavement. She'd cross over, and if then something landed, she would actually walk backwards to where she would not go anywhere near pigeons. We did the hypnotherapy. I always say to people, let me know how you are. And she actually phoned me and she said, I've come into contact with pigeons and they don't bother me anymore. Thank you very much. And I said, well, you did the work. Because it is them that does the work. All I do is show them the way, how they can make the change. But they've got to be willing to do that. I have seen people that really don't enter into hypnosis in a relaxing way. Very often people say, I can't relax. You won't relax me. But we normally do. Within 6-7 minutes or so, they're in the trance state, and then I'm able to then do the work. Over the years, and I've been doing this since 2005, I've never had a client that didn't relax, even though a lot of them, as I say, mentioned to me, I don't relax very well. But we generally get there in the end, and we get the desired effect, and it's a very enjoyable experience. They always say I feel wonderful. I used to have a lady who used to come once a month purely for the relaxation. Originally, she came for I think it was stress. She worked in a stressful job. But having had a session, she then said, can I come next month? Because I've never relaxed like that before. Just shows you that people have never relaxed like they do with hypnosis. And it's imperative they do for the unconscious mind to be contactable. For example, smoking, people think they're addicted to smoking. Now, everyone's, I'm addicted. But as I always say to them, how many hours a night do you sleep? And they say, 7 or 8 hours a night. Yeah. I said, well, if you were addicted, you wouldn't, because your body would ask you for a cigarette, like it would do if you're, for example, on heroin or cocaine. Your body needs a fix, and it will wake you up for that. But with smoking, if you can sleep 7 or 8 hours a night, smoking is just a very pointless habit. And you're paying for the privilege to contaminate your body with over 700 chemicals which are in cigarettes. And everyone goes on about nicotine, but that's not very nice. But one of the worst ingredients in cigarettes is formaldehyde. And if you know about what the Egyptians used to do with embalming their mummies, their bodies, formaldehyde was one of the key ingredients to preserve the body. And what people don't realise is they're actually contaminating their lungs with formaldehyde. They don't realise this. I mean, when I say 700 chemicals, what? Well, it can't be, but there is. It's a fact. I'm not making it up. And all these things we discuss prior to doing the session, because it really magnifies in their mind even more. I've really got to stop this pointless habit. And you're paying for the privilege of contaminating and maybe shortening your life, because 400,000 or 500,000 people a year die from smoking-related problems, emphysema, heart failure, cancer of the lung. I saw a gentleman and he had one lung taken away in an operation. I use that analogy very often with people that come to stop smoking, because this gentleman was told after the operation, if you don't stop smoking, you're going to die in about 3 months. He's no longer with us now, so this must be 10 years ago, because he did die in 10 years, within 10 years. But it gave him that time, whereas he wouldn't have had that time. But he desperately wanted to stop. But it was too late in his case, really. The damage had been done. He'd have been smoking since he was about 13, and he was about 63, 64. So, people don't realise, and they always seem to start very early. I asked that question, how old were you when you first started? 14. And they didn't enjoy the first one. It was a peer pressure thing with their friends who were all smoking. Come on, have a cigarette. So they have a cigarette. It's horrible. But they carry on smoking. I know that sounds ridiculous, but they do. And then 20, 30 years later, they think, what's this doing for me? And that's a question I often ask. What is smoking doing for you now? And I've got to tell you, probably, unanimously they say, nothing. Nothing really. Occasionally they might say, it helps calm my nerves. And I say, really? Okay. Well, we can do something about that without you having to pay for the privilege of killing yourself. One session is generally enough with me, although I have people ring me up and say, well, I've just spoken to another hypnotherapist and he said I needed 4 sessions to stop smoking. And my reply to that is, how does he know that you need 4 sessions if he's never met you? Because I generally say to people, look, let's do a session, and then I rely upon you to tell me how you are. And if you are fine, why do you need another 3 sessions? People still don't understand hypnotherapy. I mean, I see people on TV complaining about they want to lose weight. They've tried this diet, they've tried that diet. Most diets work for a while, but then they cease to work because the fact is they've got a bit fed up maybe with just eating a certain way in the diet, and eventually that stops and they go back to the old way. But if your unconscious mind has been retuned, reprogrammed, if you like, to eat in a different way, that will keep you on that straight and narrow. I've seen loads of people over the years for weight loss. I've got to tell you, mostly women. 2 or 3 men in 15, 16 years. Mainly it's women. I don't know what it is about men. They seem to think they look brilliant when they're about 19 stone. And they don't look brilliant at all, but they don't seem to care. Ladies mainly want to take pride in the way they look. They want to be slimmer. They want to go out and buy nice clothes and really look better. And ladies love it when they've lost the weight. I saw a lady once who works in a call centre, and we did 1 session. She was 17 stone 10, I remember. I was quite concerned about her actually getting into my chair because she was quite large. We did the work. I didn't actually hear from her again. I don't want to chase people, but I do want feedback. Anyway, it was 8 or 9 months before a lady that worked with her got in touch. And she said, you saw my friend. Oh, yeah, right. How is she? Oh, great, she lost weight. Oh, I'd like to come. Okay. So she came along. Cut a long story short, 17 ladies come from that initial lady. All worked in a call centre, sat in a circle on the phone. Well, phone in one hand, and as they told me, it was a biscuit or crisps or... They're always grazing in between calls. They just eat. 17 ladies. And at the time, a local radio station got in touch with me and they said, would you do a show one night about hypnotherapy? So I went over there on the appointed night, and parking the car in the car park, this voice shouted at me, a female voice, hey, Ray. And it was the lady I saw first of all that had given me all these referrals. And I said, yes, She said, it's whatever her name was. What? And I looked at her and I couldn't believe it was the same woman. She had lost 4.5 stone and she was radiant. She was absolutely bursting with health. Facially, the way she moved. My jaw literally dropped and wow, you look, I was amazed. Really, I was quite amazed she'd lost so much weight. And she said, well, it's all down to you. And I said, well, it isn't. No, it's you. It's your unconscious mind. All I do is reprogram that. But you must allow me to do that. And obviously you did. And during the show we were doing, I had to talk about hypnotherapy. I couldn't keep my eyes off her. I kept looking across the table at her because I was amazed at the transformation that she had gone through from 17 stone 10 and losing 4.5 stone. And of course I thanked her for all the referrals. She said to me, I was embarrassed to tell them when they asked me how I was losing the weight. Is it a diet? What diet are you on? She said, they kept pestering me. In the end, she said, I went to see a hypnotherapist. What? Oh, well, who is he? Where is he?
If I think about Ray, I have a feeling of gratitude towards him. He's a good man, he's someone you can trust, and that's why I was so happy about the results he gave with me that I started to introduce his name to my friends.
What I get out of being a hypnotherapist is satisfaction. Seeing the client walk away from whatever it was that troubled them. If no one stopped smoking, and they really do, and they've tried to stop but they can't, and yet 1 session of hypnotherapy can do that, I get a real buzz out of that. I feel like, although they paid, I think I earned that. You know, they didn't just pay me. Because I say to them, look, hold on a minute, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to stop smoking? Now, if they say something like 5 or 6, I generally say to them, I doubt whether you will with hypnotherapy, to be honest, because I think your resolution to want to stop is not enough. So I do turn people away sometimes. They don't like it, but I say, look, you'll find other hypnotherapists that might want to. I said, but I don't actually think you would stop smoking the way you're feeling now. When you get to 8, 9 or 10, yeah, maybe. Their mind has got to be made up. We're not magicians. We don't suddenly transform them. It's them that does the work, their unconscious mind. All I've learned is how to show them the way. That's what I was taught, and that's what I practice, and that's what works for them and works for me because I feel great. And that's why I want to get feedback. I'm sure there are hypnotherapists out there that just say, oh, thank you very much, goodbye. You know, I don't want that. I want positive feedback. So when they go out, they say, I stopped smoking and I went to see Ray. He did it in one session. It was amazing. You know, and it wasn't very much. It didn't cost a lot. I want them to tell me how they are. If they've progressed and they're feeling great, they've stopped smoking, fantastic. If they've lost weight, and not only lost weight in a few weeks and then gone back, lost weight and carried on. They get into a new eating regime. The body changes because they are treating their body differently. I'm not telling them not to eat chocolate, not to eat biscuits. It's just in hypnotherapy, suggestions are made to the unconscious mind and it takes it on board for their betterment. So if I just said to them on the phone, oh, well, do this, do that, and do this, oh, well, that'd be great, wouldn't it? But it won't work because I'm talking to the conscious mind. You have to employ the unconscious mind to change, to bring about any change. And then the change works, but they have to be willing. I'm good at what I do because I'm in step, and sometimes I can feel whatever it is that they've come to see me for. I can almost tell them what they're feeling and how they're feeling. You've learned how to do that. So now it's almost part of you. It's just a habit now that it happens, and maybe sometimes you don't even know you're doing that, but you just do it. But you've obviously got quite fed up with that and frustrated. I guess it's an empathy I have, and I sort of work on a rapport with the person and talk to them for 10 minutes or so, sometimes longer, to really get a feel of where they are and what's been troubling them, what they want to get rid of. And then I'm on their level and I'm feeling that. That's something that I just have, an empathy with them. And I try to make them feel comfortable because they've come to see somebody they've never met. They're in a room with a stranger. So I never get into the work straight away. I make them feel comfortable and relaxed, even when we're talking first. And I explain to them the process about what's likely to happen. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. They don't know. It's the unconscious mind is the only thing that knows which way it will go. And you can't move forward if the unconscious is putting an objection forward. There's something else. You've got to then find out what the objection is. And that takes a bit longer. But I've got to say, normally we're moving forward quite quickly. Because you do ask for signals, and I ask questions of the unconscious mind, and sometimes it doesn't want to move forward. It will give you that signal. I will ask maybe for an index finger on the right hand to be the yes signal, and the index finger on the left hand to be the no signal. They don't make the signal. They're not saying, oh, I'll make Ray happy, I'll show him the yes signal. They have no control. It's a purely unconscious movement. They feel it, or sometimes they don't. Because afterwards they say, did you get any signals at all? Yes, oh yeah. You could get a head twitch, but it's mainly signals from the hands that I see. But I've had other cases, and I had a lady come to see me to actually stop gambling, I remember, a few years ago. She was spending a lot of money every month. I think it was in the region of £2,000 to £3,000 a month. She was quite wealthy, but her uncle brought her. She was only young, 30s, and during that session, her feet were shuddering, her legs were like this. It wasn't hands at all. And I sat there, whoa, that's the first time I'd ever seen that. And afterwards, she was very upset. She was crying for some time. We took some time because it had really upset her. I was quite concerned about what had gone on. A few weeks later, I got an email explaining that she had not gambled on anything since, and she gambled on anything, not just horses, cards, football, anything. And she said it's the best money my uncle has spent on me. Her uncle treated her because he wanted her to do it. Eventually she understood she had to do it, and that particular testimonial was still up on my website now. That's the only person I've ever seen who wanted to stop gambling. She broke down during it because the emotion suddenly hit her. She'd been really stupid. She felt so stupid. And I said, you don't know, there's no need to feel like that. We're all human, we all get different. I do have people even now, so I'm sorry, I was a bit, and I said, don't worry about it. You do what you want to do. I'm not a judge. We all get upset sometimes when people get embarrassed getting upset in front of me. I said, it won't go any further than me. I don't mention names. Only what happened during a session I might talk to somebody about, but that's it. It's all purely confidential. Before I became a hypnotherapist, I was an advertisement salesman, face to face. I did it on the phone, but I'm a great believer in there's no substitute for visitation, is being there with that person. You can sell somebody something on the phone, but it isn't the same as building a rapport with the person, going to meet them, talk to them, don't pressurize them, just explain. And I think that's what I do nowadays, being able to be believable. That person is convinced in what I'm saying. When I used to sell ads in a magazine, I really believed in my magazine and the readership. I mean, you can go out there and pretend, oh, it's a great magazine, I think you should have an ad in it, but you come across as somebody that doesn't really believe it. You're just saying it, And I did meet a lot of people like that. But I thoroughly believed in the product. So I could go out and sit with somebody and convince them they should be using it. I feel the same about hypnotherapy, and that comes through. If you're sincere and mean what you say, and then do it, it's done. There's a word I think called simpatico. I just feel have that sympathy, that feeling with them, that they feel good with me. And they have to, because somebody who doesn't is not going to relax enough to do the work. It was with me anyway. I guess I was born with that. We all have some sort of talents, and mine are akin to the work I do now. But it took me years and years to find out this is where I should have been. But it's all experience. You can't look back and say, oh, wish I didn't do that. There were times at that time I thought, oh, God, I hate it. But if I look back now, truthfully, those things have helped me become what I am and to do this work better. The fact that I was unwell not too long ago quite badly unwell, helps me in my work now because I understand more what they're going through. My problem was more physical than it is trying to change something in my head. I had prostate cancer in 2007, but I'm still here because they did tell me that if I hadn't have had the surgery, they gave me about 8 years. They reckon before I'd have been gone. So thanks to them, I'm still here. And that in its way has helped me to want to help people with hypnotherapy. I want it to be beneficial to them as quick as we can do it. And I'm so satisfied when I hear them tell me it's over, they've finished. Stop smoking, stop eating in a certain way, stop their fears and phobias, built up their confidence. I've seen people who lack confidence when they should have loads of confidence in their job. They have to present programs to their staff. I had a gentleman not too long ago, he'd been out of that type of work for years because he was wealthy. But then he lost all his money in investments. So he said, I've got to go back to work again. I've applied, and because of my experience, I've got the job. He said, but I'm terrified to go back in there and look like I know what I'm talking about. Even though I do, I can't present it. I'm so stressed and nervous about it. He had 2 sessions with me, went into the job. He sent me a nice email. He said, thank you for what you've done, because I'm now in control. Because I had to build in him that he was the man they had to listen to. He was their boss. So he had to have the knowledge that he was telling them, and he had to perform like he really knew. And at the beginning he said he didn't, but the confidence he derived from a couple of sessions of hypnotherapy gave him the necessary belief in himself, the self-belief to go in there and just take the bull by the horns and tell them what they had to do and how we're going to do it. And there's no word like failure. I won't hear of it. We're going to do it. And he said, and I came out of the room and I sat down, and then he realised that I'd put on this big performance, this big self-confidence thing, because I'd just built it up in him, in 2 sessions, that you are the man. They're listening to you. You must not show any self-doubt. You're in control. You're not going to fail. It was a big ego boost for him with hypnotherapy through the unconscious mind. Just by telling him to do it, wouldn't have done it. It had to be immersed into the unconscious to make him feel like he was part of the job. He was their boss. Somebody called me a doctor, and I said, no, I'm not a doctor. Well, you solved my problem. Yeah, but through hypnotherapy. I'm a hypnotherapist. That's what I am. I'm not a doctor. I don't do any physical medicine. I'm not a GP. I understand what's going on in people's minds, because I've seen it so much over these years that when someone comes for more or less the same situation to change, then because I've done it so many times, I can tell them what's wrong. And they say, that's right. How did you? I said, well, I feel where you are, because I've seen so many people feeling the same. I saw a young girl, fear of needles, and she wouldn't go into a hospital when they're going to inject her. But we solved that in 1 session. Her mother rang me and said, well, she had her injections yesterday and everything was fine. So I said, great. And I'm pleased you phoned me and told me that. Yeah. Because I just want to help. That's all it is. You feel like you're really helping someone get over or get rid of or stop whatever it is in their life. Make the change in their life. I get a big kick out of that.
A friend of mine had a session to stop smoking, and he was very enthusiastic about the result, and it just made me want to try. And I'm not a person that really dig into online platforms. If I don't feel well or anything, I'm not gonna Google symptoms or stuff, because I feel like online it can be easily misleading. So literally when I contact Ray, I had very little knowledge about hypnotherapy. I was a bit scared and anxious at first, but I really had hope into the treatment to work. So I was scared and excited at the same time, but Ray made me feel at easy. So as soon as I met him and we start to talk, I start to feel comfortable within the situation. And I think that was a key part of the session for me to be able to relax and then let Ray into my head and work. I didn't say to no one, only to my best friend, that I was going to see an hypnotherapist, because it's a kind of new thing for the people around me. I think I was the first one to be hypnotized within my friends and my family for sure. So I wanted to keep for myself until I did the session and I could say more about it. Because when you think about someone being hypnotized, you'll think about what you see in a movie and expect someone with a chain pending on your face, which I knew it wasn't not going to be this. So, to avoid giving too much explanation and not knowing much myself, I wanted to have first the experience and then, being able to talk about it. Because if I say to my mother, for instance, I'm going to get hypnotized, she's going to say, "Are you crazy?" So I wanted to have a full experience and be able to talk about it without getting questions and not knowing the answer.
The main misconceptions I hear from people about hypnotherapy is, does it really work? I've seen those people on TV. I think, no, that's not right, is it? You can't get people to stop smoking, can you? I always say, well, why not? Because what is it you don't understand? Well, does it really work? You get that a lot. I don't think it can work. I can't stop smoking, so how are you going to stop me? I've had that before, and I say, because I'm not going to tell you to stop to your face. You're going to be in a transcendental state of relaxation, and the deeper you go, the better you'll feel, and the better you feel, the deeper you'll go. And when you're in that condition, I can then communicate with the part of your unconscious that controls your smoking habit. And that's what it is. It's a habit. It's not an addiction. You're not on drugs. Cigarettes. And you sleep every night, probably. And then they start to say, all right, well, okay, I didn't really think about it like that. Say, but it's not you in control. Your unconscious mind has learned how to smoke. You've learned. When you first started to drive a car, how was that? I go, I don't. When you got in the car and looked at the pedals, did you realise what pedal did what? Did you know there was an accelerator? Did you know there was a brake? Did you learn in a manual car there was a clutch? And the teacher said, I want you to do this and then do that. And you, right. And you didn't know what you were doing, did you? No. But you learned in the end how to drive. Do you think about the pedals now? No. And you've probably got the radio on. And then the phone rings. And you're on hands-free. You're talking, you're driving, you're listening. You stop, someone talks you out the window, you can do that. You're off again. You don't even think. It just happens, doesn't it? Yeah. Because you learned how to do it. And you learned how to smoke when you were 14. And now you're 63. And you're still doing it. So we have to unlearn all that. And the only way we're going to do that is to talk to the part of your unconscious mind that controls it and give it something else to do. I don't know what it will be. The unconscious will have choices. And in the appropriate places where you used to use the old way, i.e. smoking, you won't be smoking. You might be reading a book. You might be going for a walk. I don't know what it will be, but it won't be smoking. That will stop.
After the session, as soon as I arrived, I spoke with my best friend. I explained everything about how I felt and how I felt the following days, even with my colleagues at work, because as I said to you earlier, the first 2 days after I was feeling a bit really emotional, and I was working and I couldn't control it, so I had to come up with, why am I being like this? It's never been something that I was afraid to talk of or, feeling ashamed. Absolutely not. It was just, before I speak about something, I want to know what I'm talking of. It's coming together, the person that is having the session and the person doing the session. I wanted to stop smoking, so there was a will on my side which met Ray capability of working within my subconscious, I guess. It's 80% effort on the person that's having the session done, and it's a bit of work from the hypnotherapist. If you don't believe you can make it, if you don't really want to change your habits or change your life, I don't think an hypnotherapist can. They can help you find a way, but you need to want it yourself first.
I really wish people gave more credence to hypnotherapy, because most people can't take it seriously because they've seen on TV someone barking like a dog. And I get quite frustrated watching TV saying, well, I've tried this diet and I'm still 23 stone. And I think, give me your name, give me your address, give me your phone number, ring me, because I can sort you out. Because these people really want to lose weight. So there's no question about, do you want to do it? They want to do it. They've tried everything, but they've never properly tried hypnotherapy, tried diets, but not hypnotherapy. And I'd love to be able to be in touch with all these people. But then again, the awareness about how good hypnotherapy is when practiced correctly, people don't realize that. They're still struggling with these, I keep saying diets because I see so many programs about eat this, do this, eat this, have soup, have these drinks and don't eat food. That's crazy. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is have a session of hypnotherapy. And if you're willing to do that, you would change your eating habits without having to spend monthly on all these things that obviously they want you to buy, because once you've started, you're on the trail. Each month you'll be spending 80, 100, 140 pounds a month on all these different foods and drinks, and unnecessary in my book, completely unnecessary. Because you can come for hypnotherapy and in one session you'll change the way you eat and you'll eat differently. There are 4 golden rules when it comes to eating with hypnotherapy, and one of them is eat your food properly. Pick up your knife and fork, take a mouthful, put down your knife and fork and chew the food at least 20 or 30 times and then swallow it. And then again, take your time eating. Most people don't. They think like their mouth is a furnace and they're throwing food down it like there's no tomorrow. It doesn't do your digestive system any good. And people suffer from all sorts of complaints because they've not taken the time to eat the food. They're tearing around, got to eat a burger here and a burger. And they get into all these bad habits. But after a session of hypnotherapy, it changes the way they look at food, changes the way they eat food, and it changes them, changes their body. More efficient eating, and eating the right foods. I can't actually, unless you're in a session, it's hard to explain the actual content of a session with, for example, weight loss, because there are lots of, it is suggestions, of course, during hypnotherapy, but you're willing to take them on board because the unconscious wants the change. The person wants to change. The unconscious is in control of change, and we change it. It's quite amazing. I'm still amazed at it now after all these years, because I can't make them do it unless they want to. But if they want to, I can help them. I never get tired of it. I just feel privileged to be able to do it. I really do. I don't want to run stage hypnotism down too much because people are making a living from it, and some of it they might actually have a subject on the stage with them that is truly going into a trance and it's working for them. That is done for entertainment. I don't do this for entertainment. I do this for a positive change with the person, whatever it is they want to change. Fear of spiders, for example, or something like that. They've had it all their lives. That person on the TV, on the stage, won't have time to do that. He's really just performing and showing you what he can do with you, make you a pussycat or whatever it is. I'm not in that market. And I think most people would take that on board, that it's totally different from what we do on a one-to-one basis. There are some hypnotherapists that might see 2 or 3 people in one go. I personally think I want to give a person my total focus on them and whatever it is they want to change. And they will get more benefit from that. Some of those people you see on TV, maybe 1 or 2 of them are, and the other 3 or 4 or 5 are going along with it because they're on TV. So if I suggested, want you to bark like a dog, you'll get people that will just do it because I'm on telly. And that, frankly, doesn't help people watching that in taking hypnotherapy seriously, because they've seen that. I've had people say to me, well, you're not going to make me bark like a dog, are you? No, unless you want to. You know, maybe we could, but you've come to stop smoking. Yeah, well, that's all we're going to do. Oh, you've been watching TV. It's not real in my book. Not as real as it is when somebody desperately wants to make a change. Some people are so stressed. I've seen people that, for example, want to stop drinking. They're drinking too much. I saw a lady who was drinking half a bottle of scotch a night because she had a stressful job. Next day, stressful day, home again, drank the other half. And she was spending a lot of money on scotch. One session stopped her binge drinking, as we call it, of course, but she was desperately wanting to change. So that makes for a good candidate for hypnotherapy because she wanted it so much. A, it was expensive, and B, she felt awful the next day for the first half of the day because she was still suffering from drinking that much. Just a lot of drink. I've seen quite a lot of people for binge drinking over the years. Hypnotherapy can be a magic bullet. It all depends on the client. If they come along with their mind wide open, please help me. Yeah, it's a magic bullet. Yeah, definitely. But at the end of the day, I won't see anybody that isn't wanting to make the change because we already established during the discussion on the phone or whatever that they are up for making the change. So then after one session, if you've made the change, well, one was enough. If you feel you need another one, fine. But that's why I ask people for feedback. We're all different. It never works the same for everybody. There have been people that probably have phoned me and said, it was great. I didn't smoke for 3 months. And then I was at a party and I weakened and I had a cigarette. I'm smoking again. What can you do? I said, well, it worked before, so you know what we can do. If you really want to do it, we can stop you again. Oh, so to have another session. In fact, just recently, I've seen a guy who wants to stop smoking. We stopped him smoking, and then he phoned me up and said, I've had a row with my wife, and I've run out in the garden, and I've lit a cigarette up. I said, oh, gosh, have you? All right. He said, what can I do? I said, well, we've got to have another session. And we did it again, and he stopped again. And he rang me only last week, and he said, I fell off the wagon again. We had another row. But he obviously gets so hyper, and he leant towards the cigarette again. So he's coming again next week. So it'll be the third time. But he knows it works. It's just that I can't obviously have any control over his relationship, but, you know, People say, well, if you've stopped him, why has he started again? Well, it is possible that a lot of stress can make you reach for it again. It's not 100%. And I've just illustrated that in the fact that he's been stopped twice. Probably going to be stopped third time now, but he knows it's him. He said, I don't know what happened, Ray. I'm so sorry. And I said, don't apologise to me. We'll just do it again. It's easy to do. It's only, an hour and a half in time, what they're here. They see me for about an hour and a half. And about just over an hour of that is actual hypnosis in the actual hypnotic condition. Very simple. Anyone can do it. Very often people say, a bit concerned about it or very worried about it. I said, there's nothing to be worried about. Do you like to relax? Oh, yeah. Have you ever laid on a beach on holiday and felt really lovely and remote and fantastic that you're on your own? Yeah. Well, that's how it is. That's exactly how it'll be. And that's very often one of the metaphors I use. Imagine you're on a beach, nothing to bother you. And they just love it. It's so relaxing. The young man is brought to me by his sister. He didn't actually say a great deal. He was almost like an amoeba. His sister explained to me that his life had gone from bad to worse. He'd lost his job, he'd lost his girlfriend. He didn't have anything. All because he was on a drug, cocaine. Any money he got spent on cocaine. His sister helped him with money, not knowing that most of it was going on a fix of cocaine. But she said, can you help? And I said, I can try. I honestly don't know. And I didn't. We did a session. He sat here, didn't even speak. He was just a mess. But after the session, she said there's a definite change in him. But I still think he's resorting to cocaine. Not as much. He's trying. I said, well, his unconscious mind is trying. His conscious mind will allow him to keep going. So she said, I think he needs to have another session, which we did. I think we had 3 with him. That's the most I've ever seen anybody. The good news is, not only did he come off cocaine, he still texts me now several times a year. He texts me at Christmas. He always does, just to say, hi Ray, hope you're well, hope your family, your grandson's well. I said, but how are you? Oh yes, I got a job, I've bought a van, I'm going around cutting grass. I don't touch cocaine anymore. What a fool I was. And he would never have done that before. He was just sitting around like his life was over. And he was always upset that his mother knew he was on cocaine and it was breaking her heart. So when he was off, he then went to stay with her sometimes. And she was so delighted to see him back as a person again without having to lean on cocaine. But when you're in the middle of that, you don't think about being a fool or should I do it? You're just in there, you're doing it. He must have wanted to stop it a lot because I'm not a wizard, I'm not a magician. Unless that, I keep saying this, but unless that person really wants to make a change, they won't. no matter how good I think I am. I can't do anything. So he did the work, and I keep constantly saying to him, you wanted this, and you did it. I'm even amazed myself after all this time, the way that people can change their life. It made me think of a young lad recently. His mother and father got in touch, and they said, could you help our son? He's 19, and he's not eaten proper food since he was 6. I said, well, what, he doesn't eat food? Well, he lives on pizza, spaghettis and pasta. He doesn't eat any other foods. I said, what about fruit? No, he won't. He doesn't. I can't say I've ever come across that as advanced before. I see people that won't eat certain foods, but he doesn't eat any food apart from pasta. So I said, well, we can try it. There are no guarantees. I always say that anyway, there are no guarantees, because if you can't relax and allow yourself to go to trance state, it's not my fault. That's why I say it's not me. It's your mind, not mine. He came along, we did a session. Please let me know how you are. I didn't really hear anything for several weeks. He himself emailed me and said, I can see some changes. I have tried some other foods, but I feel I need another session to confirm it, to give it a boost, if you like. And we did another session. In fact, I said, I'm going to do regression with you, which is not always pleasant because it means I'm going to take you back into time. And sometimes that's not pleasant. If someone's hit you around the head with a baseball bat when you were 10, you don't really want to go back and relive that, do you? But it might be necessary, and I thought it might work. We did that session, and at the end of it, when he came out, he suddenly was, I know what it was. I know, I was there. And I said, so tell me, what was this? When he was a very small boy, about 5 or 6, a teacher had forced him to eat a sour yogurt, and it put him off eating properly. And from then on, he only went to eat spaghettis and stuff like that. So I thought that was a good turning point. It certainly sounded like it. So again, I said to him, let me know how it goes. And it was another couple of weeks or so. He sent me an email. Well, it wasn't just it was a long, big email. And it was basically saying, I've tried other foods and I'm now getting on with other foods I've never eaten. And he thanked me again. And I replied, well, no, as I always say, it's you. I just showed you the way and you took the path. Your unconscious mind changed for you. So I get chuffed with that. I really get a sense of, that's great. Love it. People getting what they want, It just makes me feel worthwhile. I'm doing something worthwhile. And lately I'm seeing more people for anxieties and stress, which can lead then through to depression. They're very strongly linked, but they are very aware they've got to do something about it. The hardest thing to learn when you're being taught how to practice as a hypnotherapist is that you have got to relax too. You've got to have that empathy with that person. You're asking them to let go of tension through their body, and then ask them to breathe in a deep way. Well, basically, these are all induction methods to relax that person. And they're not going to do that if you're saying, come on now, relax. I want you to relax. So one of the first things you learn is you have got to be calm, talk to them, listen to them. They've got to feel, I think this guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. I feel comfortable with this person. So if they do, and you must make them feel that comfortable, and immerse yourself in their problem. I generally feel their problem. I can see it. And very often they're crying while they're telling me. So it's very upsetting at times. But I say, okay, fine. Are you okay? Do you want to do it? Yes. Okay. So then we do it very gently. We start them off very quietly. But once we've got them nice and relaxed, and I'm then able to carry on and do the proper work, which is really changing the way the unconscious has been, just changing. If it's food regime, I would say it's easy, no easier than anything else. You take the time. You let them know there's plenty of time. There's no rushing. I'm here for you, that person. So that's why I believe a one-to-one situation, for me at least, is the best way for me to go. Maybe other people can do 3 or 4 at a time. Personally, because if you had 2 or 3 people, they're all going to react differently. They're not all going to go into a nice, somber, relaxed state of mind together. They're different people. They're all individuals. We all change differently. I mean, the young man I had yesterday, suddenly, almost, I thought he was having a fit in the first 10 minutes of relaxation. And then he said, I thought, I was like I was going round and round, he said. I said, that's okay, don't worry. No, I'm sorry. I said, no, nothing to be sorry about. Just sit for a while and we'll go again in a moment, don't worry. And he calmed down, and when we did the work, for the second time we started again, it was fine. And at the end of it, he said, oh, that was really good. I don't know what happened the first time. I said, well, it doesn't matter. It's gone. And he was coming to see me to really alleviate stress. And he didn't feel in control in the beginning when I've asked him to let go. And sometimes people can't do that immediately, because you're asking me now to do nothing. I'm in your hands. I don't know you, just met you. So it's not always easy. Some people can do it 3 minutes. Others take 10, 12. It doesn't matter. The unconscious mind is always listening. Even if the people, and I've had ladies mainly, go to sleep and snore. They're snoring. It doesn't matter. The unconscious mind still listens all the time. Because after the session, I say to them, do you remember when I said X, Y, or Z? And they go, yeah. I said, well, and you were worried about being, because someone said, oh, I went to sleep, did I? And I go, yeah, you did. Doesn't matter. You relaxed. That's what I want. And this was listening. And because when I ask them a question and they give me the answer, I know, even though they were asleep, they took it on board. The unconscious is your best friend in life. And it's illustrated also by the fact, if you walk down a road and somebody came from behind you and intended to do damage to you, let's say we're going to put a knife in your shoulder or something, immediately you're like that. In that last split second, you sense them. You haven't got eyes in the back of your head, but your senses pick up on that. They do. Like sometimes people say, I feel like somebody's watching me. We've all got these wonderful senses. I'm still learning after all these years. I am still amazed at the power of the unconscious mind. It's incredible. I know what I can do. I know I show them the right way. A friend of mine said his son was binge drinking. He goes out with his friends drinking every day, every night. Very worried about him. I said, well, yeah, I can understand you are, but is he? Oh, yeah, I think he... I said, well, don't think, ask him. If he wants to change, then maybe we can do something. He did say to me, yeah, my son is willing to do it, and he did come along. But I felt all the way through the session, he wasn't really relaxing enough. He wasn't complying with what I was asking him to do, and he's still drinking. So if you don't come along with the right frame of mind that you really want to change, you won't. I think he went along with it because he wanted to please his father more than wanting to stop. A good session is when the person relaxes, lets go, and is listening to me. The unconscious is then listening, and the whole session just flows very smoothly, in control of what's happening, what I'm saying. I can see that they're there, they're in that moment, they're enjoying that. And if I am asking for movements and I'm getting them, even better. It doesn't always have to happen. Sometimes there are things going on like numbness in their arms. I can't feel that. They can. It doesn't have to be movement. It doesn't always be movement. But normally there is, if I'm asking for it, and get a receptive answer. And at the end of it, they feel great. And I can ask them a couple of questions about, did you see this? Did you feel that? Whatever. And they do. Then I know that they've been exactly where I wanted them to be. And they always feel, when I ask them, how long do you think you're in hypnosis? 5 or 10 minutes, they say. Well, actually, it's been an hour and 10 minutes. What? It's such a pleasurable experience for them that they don't realise just how long they've been in that altered state of awareness. When a client first comes, they're very keen to do it. I'm not too sure how it's going to work, so I do take the time to explain the process and make them feel at ease. But they are quite keen to make the change. They look forward to it. I always tell them on the phone, you've got nothing to do when you get here. You've got nothing to do but sit in a chair and relax. How does that sound? Oh, great. Because people can be concerned. They don't know what to expect. And frankly, all they've got to do is nothing. Got nothing to do. Hello, Roberto.
Hello, Ray.
How are you?
I'm good. You okay?
Yes, very well.
The reason why I came back today is just because there is another issue, a wrong habit that I had since I was kid and I never could really get rid of. And I just came with the hope that I can get this sorted.
I've only seen somebody for hypnotherapy for this once before. He's got an insatiable appetite for picking his own skin off his body. It's not eczema. Seen people for eczema. This is a complaint that he has, and I think he's stressed. It's manifested itself in him constantly picking at himself. I think it's his legs, he told me. So this afternoon, as always, when he arrives, I make him feel comfortable, talk to him in a very low-key way about what will happen, and explain to him he is not in control. The unconscious mind is making him do this. The unconscious is very powerful. It's 80% of your total mind capacity. You only use 20% of your capacity during any day because most of what you've done is stored away in here. Like, for example, you've learned over the time that you've been doing the skin picking, you've learned how to do that. So now it's almost part of you. It's just a habit now that it happens, and maybe sometimes you don't even know you're doing that, but you just do it. But you've obviously got quite fed up with that and frustrated. So hypnotherapy should be able to help you with that. So we have to reprogram or retune the unconscious to stop this. So we will spend a little bit of time talking about this, and then I will get him to relax, move back in the chair, feet up, hands very lightly on the tops of their legs so I can see their fingers, because the fingers might talk to me. You feel okay?
Yes, I feel at ease at the moment, so...
Good stuff. Well, that's what it's all about. I'm just going to get the headphones for you, which makes it a lot easier for you to concentrate on what I'm saying. In my treatment room, I actually use a piece of equipment which is, it's called Hypnoki, not karaoke. No, I can't sing. It's a piece of equipment where the client will wear headphones. I will as well, and I can talk to him through the headphones. And also there will be some really nice atmospheric music playing in the headphones as well. This is all designed to take him down, to relax, to get the outside noises away from him. All he'll be hearing is me and the music. Allow your eyes to close, and then I want you to think about the last time you really relaxed. Maybe it was at home when you got in from work, on a holiday. You know when you last relaxed. I've used it for 12 years or so. I didn't use it in the beginning. It's possible to do the work without it. I just happen to think it helps enormously to contain the individual within where I want him so he listens, and it's concentrated on him. And they relax a lot quicker. And I think it makes the work a lot easier to use this. But I find it beneficial not only to me, but mainly it's for them. And they generally say, yeah, it was wonderful. I relaxed so much quicker. Because it's centered on them. That's really what I like to use. So it makes them relax in 7 to 10 minutes. And in that condition, I can do the work easier, which will be to alleviate him from this terrible habit, which it is. Most things are habits. He's got into this habit of just, he probably doesn't even know he's doing it sometimes, scratching till he gets the skin off. The drifting down and a drifting back upwards towards the surface of wakeful awareness at times, and that's fine. It all belongs to you, because you have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. A session will last around about an hour, maybe a little bit more, and this will change the way the unconscious views this, and hopefully that will stop him from doing it. To those things I might say without the need for you to do anything at all. It's quite straightforward, really. Initial getting to know you, relaxing, and then I can do the work. I can go through the actual session, which applies to whatever it is that needs to be changed. They do differ. It's not the same thing all the time. So, for example, stopping smoking is obviously totally different from changing the way you eat or losing a fear or a phobia. The unconscious mind can allow that drifting to occur while the conscious mind drifts off someplace else entirely. We're talking for over an hour and you don't want to miss out anything that could be vital. So script's a vital part of a hypnotherapist's job. Most things can be treated with hypnotherapy as long as the person wants to do it. Because there are so many things you can treat, there are various different methods, scripts to use. Like today is very unusual, so I have to acquaint myself with what needs to be said. So it's a lot easier to use a script. You can then pace yourself of allowing the unconscious mind to assume more and more responsibility. If you didn't use a script, you might go too quick, you might go too slow. I would never be able to remember it all. Allow your unconscious mind to help you find a way of dealing with that situation and addressing it successfully. You know what it was. You can see it. That hand is telling me, your unconscious hand is raising to say you found it. That's good. And now that we have identified the emotions, the causes behind your skin picking compulsion, we are going to visit the control room of your mind where the few boxes are located. I want you now to commit yourself to all those decisions you have made, the main decision today, and you've turned it off. And you will never turn it back on again. In a moment, I'll count to 5, and on the count of 5, you'll come back to awareness, feeling determined, and then bringing them round in a slow, contained way. It's a countdown. I count to 5, and on the count of 5, you'll open your eyes, feeling refreshed, invigorated, determined, and a lot happier. And they do. And they come back with all sorts of answers and feelings. But generally, the overwhelming feeling is, wow, what, I loved it. It was relaxing. Wow, how great. And that's how they generally feel. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Very slowly, just open your eyes and come back to wakeful awareness, feeling invigorated, determined, happy, relaxed, and looking forward to the future. Yeah. Good. Well done. How do you feel generally now? Sort of about things. Do you feel positive or?
Very relaxed. I would say empty. So I feel like I'm maybe floating.
Yeah, good. Did you know your hands spoke to me?
I could feel they were moving at one point.
They want you to go forward.
I could feel ear on the shoulders, like the lifting, but I wasn't really controlling it. It was like relaxing. So I could feel my arm was moving.
Yeah, they were. Did you know they rose?
Yeah, I could feel it a little bit.
Okay,
I could feel like
it's
kind of electricity on my fingertips.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
tingly.
Yes.
Tingly, yeah. Sensations, very light. Yeah, good. That's your unconscious mind agreeing with going forward. It wants you to be the best you can be. You could sit there all day, couldn't you?
It's very comfortable. It's very comfortable.
During that session, I said he's in the control room, which was basically his mind that controls his body, and it controls everything about him, and to see various switches and lights going on and off in various areas of his body where he could find out what was causing him to actually pick at his own skin. And then when he came across them, to ask him to switch that off. Switch that off. In fact, he reacted really well. We had some what we would call signals from the unconscious mind. His fingers moved, his hands even rose, which is a nice sign that the unconscious is listening and helping and willing for him to go forward in life without that rather nasty habit of skin picking. He let go very well and he was comfortable. And when he's comfortable, those signals come quite freely from somebody who wants to change. The unconscious wants him to change. So when I see that, I know we are winning. We're going somewhere. And I did feel quite elated by that. It's a lovely sight. You don't always see it. His unconscious is communicating, saying, yes, let's get rid of this. Let's change this. Yeah, so I felt really quite good. It was a bonus in a way, but I think he would have benefited from the session even without movement. I didn't really ask for a lot of movement, just a finger, but I got the full works. I got both hands, which is, it's a hypnotherapist's dream to get that. You know that what you're doing is good, what you're doing is working. I found it very interesting myself, actually. I don't just sit here and go through the bits and pieces of hypnotherapy and think, well, that's it. I still get the big buzz, is a good way of putting it, from seeing them respond and knowing that he was there, in tune with what I was asking him to be in tune with, and then to feel good at the end of it and tell me exactly what he thought went on. Because I don't know. I'm guessing, but I'm not in his mind. I'm not in his unconscious. So only he knew. When they come back, it's almost like you look at a different person sometimes. And he did look, I think, a lot more relaxed than he did. I've seen some people, their whole face seems to, if they had a sort of a wrinkly face, I've seen it actually be so smooth afterwards that they've almost like, been regenerated. That's a good way of putting it, I think. I can see on your face that it's you've been somewhere. I know you've gone. You went to the control room, didn't you, with those switches?
I feel very, very relaxed. Like, good. Yeah, I could be, seated here for the rest of the day.
Good. Okay. If you'd have been here watching the session today, and you might have been sceptical about hypnotherapy, your skepticism would have turned into positivity. I'm believing in this because I actually saw these signals which emanated from the unconscious mind. I saw his hands rise, all on their own. And that, to me, was fascinating. That proves that hypnotherapy is doing something for that person. It does actually change whatever it is they need to change. In his case, picking his skin, other people stop smoking, lose weight, not only lose it, but continue to control the weight loss, and not as some fads and diets do. You lose the weight and you put it back on in 3 months' time. Not with hypnotherapy, you don't.